Hello, I'm Bookface. Now there are a few different franchises and mediums that have motivated me to design my own creatures, either on my own or with the helps of games and software like in this series. My beloved nightmarish children for this video are based on Pokemon, because I've always loved the designs, most of the time. We will be specifically using the Fakemon Maker by Japeal, because it allows for significantly more options, since I can use a different Pokemon per part. This is probably one of the more dubious things I'm using to create my children, at least since I stopped using AI. Man, hindsight really sucks on that one. So, Japeal, buddy, you better be on the up and up. I don't wish for more of my sweet children to be tainted by hindsight. Our first kiddo is a simple guy. Since he's starting the video, he's also all starters. Knowing how chaotic and terrifying my children typically become, I figured I could make this guy more cute, friend-shaped, and, simple. That or I was just feeling a little lazy. And the only thing I really have to add past that is the trivia that Quilava is my favorite mid-stage starter. And this sweet boy is named Starter Upper. So with my second child, I decided to get a random combination of parts and work from there. And then immediately randomize it again into something worse for some reason. I use the general Tanky structure of the first randomization and use some of my favorite bits. Aggron's body gives a great solid build, and larger versions of Scissor's claws make this one a force to be reckoned with. Probably gives great hugs though. I tried to make the Heracross face work since that's my boy, but I eventually had to find a better option. If the face included the horn though, absolutely. I'm not entirely sure why I went with Grottle instead of Torterra for the head, but in the end I stand by the decision just because of how well the armor lines up. Makes my editing process a lot easier when I do the more complicated versions of these guys. And to add even more offense, since I apparently decided to make this child a weapon of war, I added Komoo's tail since I could see it basically working like a wrecking ball. He loves Miley Cyrus. I tried a few different color combos, and I'm kind of feeling like I should have kept the Electros colors, but we'll just say that's the shiny version. I eventually landed on Blastoise, which might not be flashy, but I think it fits this absolute unit named Not. These names are why I sometimes wonder if I ever should have been gifted creativity. Next up, we have a process that can only be described as throw it against a wall and see what sticks. I randomized each part until I got something weird enough, which might seem a bit lazy, but it also helps to make sure that I try all kinds of different Pokemon instead of just my favorites. You really think I would have used Buzzwole if not for this? Not a chance. No child of mine is going to be on steroids. I'm proud of how this random chaotic abomination came out, and I named him Wildest Dreams, because I'm pretty sure I was listening to Taylor Swift a lot around the time I made this, and also dreamy, and also because this one is canonically a sleep paralysis demon. Comment down below if you see him tonight. Next up, this kid has quite a few hot take Pokemon parts. By that I mean, I'll just straight up say it, I love Tubbish's design. Not ironically, they are cute alley cats with awkward vibes, and I will not allow for any more slander against them. As if I have any say in that whatsoever. Don't like Garbodor though. Garbodor's a bit much. My defense for this overall design in mind, I will admit that not all of these parts really fit together all that well, and definitely needed the facelift I gave in the Photoshop version. But still, if anything happens to Garbish Legs, the Pokemon world shall know true horror. Giratina, step aside. I am Pokemon Satan now. You will catch all of these hands. Continuing on, we go with the sort of self-indulgent design in the sense that I'm working with some pretty easy options. I like to challenge myself and make cool, complicated designs out of really simple and sometimes not very good parts. But yeah, that's not this. This kiddo is the true Eldritch horror of Pokemon. And of course, to that end, they're made of all the really cool bits of exclusively legendaries. And or mythicals, because I can never really tell the distinction, and I don't care to learn. The base is Zekrom, because that was actually the first legendary Pokemon I ever caught, so he holds a special place in my heart. Also, I just love the Tanky dragon design. Part of me really wanted to keep the Lugia wings, just because it looks like he's got 2 extra hands exclusively for slapping, but unfortunately, the vibes are just a bit too goofy for this one. I did still kinda give him a slappy hand by adding Yveltal's tail. Yveltal. You know, I've never had a hard time saying that name until I'm trying to say it in a video and know that all the Pokemon fans will roast me. Like, comment, and subscribe. And ultimately, I landed on Cosmoem for colors, and much like my last kiddo, their design here doesn't really feel complete until I have to go ultra try hard in Photoshop to create Deostream. And with that, we're done for now. I hope you all Okay, so that was gonna be the final design. Show off everything I'd learned. But I was having enough fun and felt like being a little more chaotic with my finishing pride and joy. So of course, I had to use my skills for evil, and instead of creating the coolest fusion I could, make the most cursed thing I could think of. Machoke's overly human buff guy body has been weirding out Pokemon fans since Gen 1. Ambipom's hands are okay, but not quite strange enough. Mr. Mime, however, is an absolute nightmare factory, as we all know, and those hands really embody a lot of it. I figured Pinsir's face would add an appropriate level of horror and discomfort, but unfortunately, that bug is just too cool to go in this derpy thing. I chose Politoed for the feet because I knew I wanted the toes to stand out, which is a sentence I will have to live with forever. The coloration was honestly so easy it felt redundant. I really don't think any Pokemon design can have a more garish color scheme than Bruxish. Like, legitimately, I challenge any artists to try and make a worse colored Pokemon. I'm genuinely curious. After a minute of thinking, I realized that the best face for this one is one that accurately portrays its horror at its own existence. So, Weepinbell was the only correct choice. And in a surprise edition, we had Floette, but I think the random flower that is basically just stabbed through this thing's chest is bizarre enough to work. Especially when you consider that this flower is, in this program, classified as wings. So yes, canonically, this monster flies by hovering above the ground by its flower like some absolute nightmare Mary Poppins. I ended up changing the feet to Cinderace. Enough said. And for the tail, I used Barboach, both because it's a weird little tail to add on to this, but also because I find it really funny that the, quote, tail for Barboach is basically just half of its entire body.
Does he have 2 buttholes?
And with that, Pokeman joins the ranks of the nightmare children of Fakemon Maker. And with this glorious family photo, I'll smell you later.